Hi everyone. I wanted to begin by describing first what I'm up to here. I wanted to offer a more personal reflection on my reading of Hannah Arendt's enormous historical work, The Origins of Totalitarianism, written originally in 1951. I'm creating alongside this video series some more concise summaries and key text excerpts from each chapter as well. But the videos are more my experience of reading the book. Ideas I've taken from the chapters, some questions I have along the way. Why? Well, I had heard about Arendt for many years, and while she's written several books and been an influential force in political philosophy, you might also have heard about her book, The Human Condition, where she argues in favor of human action and agency, in forgiving the past and promising a better future. She reverses our fear of mortality and couches her thinking in what she calls natality, the birth of potential in each human. It's an optimistic theory, but right now, this earlier book is on my mind. Here, she investigates what created Stalinism and Nazism, what created regimes of what she calls radical evil, those that preyed upon masses of people in systematized campaigns of terror. It was this shift, she argues, that makes totalitarianism different from mere tyranny and dictatorship. Now, this isn't merely a matter of getting our political terms right. It's essential in understanding what rules are operating here and how we might respond to them. The work is controversial in some areas, but key to her discussion is that the popular understanding of anti-Jew behavior we saw in 20th century Russia and Germany was not really one of hatred at all, but one of political convenience. They were made a target for attack, an invented enemy, in order to create the terror that totalitarian power depends upon. As a German and American philosopher of Jewish descent who was directly involved in assisting young Jews in emigration and illegally researching anti-Semitism through the 1930s, we can imagine Arendt's perspective is deeply invested. Later on, she tests out the ideas of the origins of totalitarianism in her participation in the trial of Nazi Holocaust organizer Adolf Eichmann. Key to her thinking after the trial was that Eichmann was not a monster at all, but, quote, terrifyingly normal. A man just doing what he was told, following his instructions, following orders, doing his job. She described Eichmann and those who participate in the totalitarian campaigns as part of a banality of evil, where his attachment to slogans and propaganda made him boring, unable to think rationally for himself, a mere joiner, and therefore capable of committing the most horrifying of acts. Now, I've already gone much further into this history than I planned, but I think it's important because this was essentially what I knew of Arendt up to now, these broader statements of her work. But I hadn't read it. Now, she's been on my TBR list since college, and that, I have to say, is 40 years ago. And so we're here. It's April 2025, and our fragile democracy seems incapable of reflecting upon itself in any substantive way, in a way that finds value in its own preservation. From the time when I first learned about the Holocaust and thought to ask questions about it, I was always caught by the one that everyone finally asks. Well, sure, Hitler and his buddies were evil, but what about the rest of Germany? How could the people have allowed it? I know, and my friends and I always considered the question somewhat unfair, even while we asked it. But that never stopped us from asking. I mean, it's true, we knew there was more to it than a single man or even a small group. There was more to it than a single moment of change, a defined turning point. That people were more complex than we give them credit for, that circumstances for choices were confused, uncertain. And that history, as it is so often taught, makes it seem more simple than it was. But here we are. Arendt's works, de Tocqueville, Jefferson, Gandhi, Kant, Locke, John Rawls, others, all have already offered us ways to think about governance, principles, freedoms. All of these have been on my adult TBR list because the schools seemed unable to offer more than summaries and reading checks of the few that they rarely chose to offer. But the question, how could the people have allowed it, has become kind of existential, hasn't it? And if we don't understand, how can we hope to recognize ourselves? Whether or not anyone is ultimately held accountable for our own next chapters, we ourselves are responsible for this question. I want to be responsible to my democracy. At a time when apathy, fear, and tribalism grow stronger, I'm reading Arendt right now, and more afterwards, because we can't understand what we see, and we therefore don't see. So, I'll be creating a reading guide for the origins of totalitarianism as I read it. I haven't found one in any kind of detail that would be helpful to readers outside of political scholarship. And I'll be back to do more videos like this after each chapter, about 15 in all, I suspect, one maybe about every 2 weeks. Now, I've got 2 copies here. The first one is published by Mariner, and it's the text as it has been printed ever since 1976, after a few revisions in the 1960s. This other one is this new 2025 edition put together by the Library of America. It's pretty expensive, and it calls itself the Expanded Edition. I'll save you some time. If you like the prettier hardcover for status, you can get it. But don't buy it because of any claims for expanded. In it, they restore one small missing chapter on the Hungarian Revolution and her original concluding remarks, which are largely in the paperback version anyway. I'll find a way to make the Hungarian Revolution chapter available to those who want it. So, I hope you find these videos valuable going forward, no matter when you are watching or listening. I know they're helping me articulate my thinking about what I read. So, thank you for watching. And here we go.